it for a while, but I thought I'd just build a couple of projects and then move on to hopefully doing some crystal radios and some other stuff, some more Arduino. But anyway, so I ordered these. They weren't very much. I think they were $7 each, really cheap. So I got a couple of them, and problem being, the instructions are in Chinese. Yep. Fortunately, it's got a schematic, pretty good board diagram there, so I think I can half-assed read the schematic, so I might be able to get this built. Anyway, I'll give it a shot and see where it gets me. Okay, so I'm going to go for some lower hanging fruit. I'm just going to glue the pieces in here that need to be glued in. Can't even pick that up. So just going to glue that in, glue the speaker in. Okay, to glue that front panel in, still got a bit of glue on it. All I used was a little bit of silicon, and that's all I'm going to use for this as well. So just a little tiny bit of silicon. A little bit in there, a little bit there, a little bit there, and I mean, I actually could just, I think, which way is this speaker going to need to go? I really don't know. I'm going to face it out that way. Yeah, it's definitely, this is a bit of a jigsaw puzzle. So I'm going to go with the easy stuff first. And, yep. So while that's drying, I can start working on the actual main circuit board. First thing that I will do, so this here is some form of transformer. Now, I don't know if you're going to be able to see that, but that diagram there shows, so I'm not really sure which pins are which, so I'm going to test the pins with the ohm meter, and two of the pins should two of these between the middle and the outside, two of those should show a very low resistance, and whichever two show a low resistance, that will be my corner set for this transformer. So once again, this is all okay. So I'm just checking the ohms, not there, not there, not there, not there. It's actually the one there. So if you can see the meter while I'm holding it there, 66.8 ohms. So that's the one I'm looking for. So that tells me where that's going to go. Okay, so measured those pins found which one, you should be able to just see the little coil thing there. So that shows a winding between those two pins, and so I can use that to identify which way this is supposed to go in. So I've got that there now. That's actually probably one of the harder pieces, but I'm sure it's right. Now I just need to solder it. Okay, so when soldering circuit boards, you don't spend too much time heating up the board, so you need to be able to do it quickly. Okay, so just a little bit of touch to the soldering iron. So heat to the joint, solder to the joint, heat to the joint, solder to the joint. Nice shiny silver, so that's actually a good solder. I remember back when I could see these joints without glasses, but not anymore. So they're all soldered in there, and then what I'm going to do is just trim those off with some nippy cutters. Alright, now, so that's the transformer on there. I think what I'm going to do next is get the resistors fitted up. I'm going to do all those in one job, I think. So resistors next. Okay, so I don't know if you can actually see that or not, but I've got all the resistors set out on this piece of foam. You're going to need something like this to be able to read what the resistors are supposed to be, and then you can always check the resistance with an ohm meter just to make sure everything's the way it should be. But I've got a lot of these brown, so I've got 4 of these brown, black, brown, and then gold, which is 1, 0, 1, so what is that, 100 ohms, and then the multiplier is a black, so it's 1, 0, so it should be 100 ohms. So I've got 4 of these 100 ohm resistors, a lot of other different ones, but so I'm just going to set them in the board, set them in there where they need to go, and hopefully solder them all up at once. Okay, I've nearly finished putting in all the resistors. What I was doing, so I would try and read the color codes on the resistor. I showed you earlier on that. I've got this color code guide. I would try and read that, but then I would always go and double check with an ohm meter just what the resistance was. And I'm just trying to example this here, but it's hard working around the camera. So that there shows 20 kilo ohms. So like I said, I would try and read it. Sometimes I got it right, sometimes I made a mistake. Anyway, I'm just double checking myself. But then I go and check it with the meter. Then I would use this thing here, and I'd find where 20 kilo ohms is. It was 20 kilo ohms. 20 kilo ohms. There we go. That's right. Right there, 20 kilo ohms, goes with R5, and yeah, now I'm trying to find it on the circuit board, R5, there we go, and it's literally the last resistor I have to kind of weird. Anyway, last resistor I have to fit up, and it's that one there. Anyway, I picked the resistors to do now because they're not polarized, they're pretty simple, very easy to check, and after I had actually fitted the resistor, I would go and double check that I had it in the right location before I soldered it up. And then soldered it up there. I wanted to show you quick. This is another very cool ryobi tool. Anyway, so I'm going to press the power on that, heats up. It literally takes seconds to heat up to soldering temperature. Solder those last 3 resistors on, and I will be good to go. Next thing I'm going to do is the so that's a variable capacitor that's used for tuning the radio. This is a variable resistor potentiometer used for controlling the volume from the radio. And this here is just a, I'm not actually sure what that one is. It should be an earplug or an earpiece thing. So anyway, I'm going to fit those 3 pieces up next because they're the next, to me, most logical, easy to find the location, and they're very safe, you know, in that I can, it's hard to damage them. So that's what we're going to do next. Soldering iron is ready, and solder up these last 3 resistors. And once again, you're looking to apply the little bit of solder to the soldering iron, and then the heat to the joint, and the solder to the joint. And I think that's, I've got that one done. Yeah, I'm not sure how well you can see that, but I've got those 3 last resistors all soldered in, and ready to snip them off. After every round of soldering, I'll go through and double check to make sure I haven't got any shorts, like anywhere where the solder has jumped over onto the next track or is in any way going to be causing a problem, and just to make sure that I'm not going to have a problem, because like I've built a lot of kits before, and a little bit of checking, checking and testing now, it'll save you a lot of trouble later on, because if I can find a mistake right now, I can find it, fix it, whereas if I go all the way to the end, I get everything built and finished and turn it on and it doesn't work, it's much harder to trace back where the fault may be, because there might be multiple faults, and it probably is multiple faults. So always keep checking and testing, and like I said, this is the stage where I'm at. I've got the resistors in, and I'm about to do the potentiometer, variable capacitor, and I think it's the earpiece. Okay, so next thing, actually I don't think I showed you this before, but I fitted up the tuning capacitor, took a couple of screws right in there, the potentiometer. I'm pretty sure this here is the earpiece plug. I had a bit of problem with the earpiece plug in that I think this circuit board was faulty, and that I could not get a good solder joint, so I ended up having to jumper across from one to where it should have went. So I think the actual circuit board was not the best. But anyway, so I got that done. Now the next piece I was going to do right now is the LED, because so I'm just doing this project just to make myself remember, you know, basic electronics. So the cathode is the short lead on the LED, and that corresponds to that line. Instead of the arrow, it corresponds to the line going across the arrow on that. I'm not sure if you can even see that on the board, but anyway, so I've worked out this is where this LED needs to go. I checked the polarity, and I'm good to go on that. So there's the LED mounted up, and then I just need to solder it in. Okay, so now I fitted the LED there, but I do believe it has to actually fit from the other side. So I'm going to flip that around. Hopefully I got that in the right spot. Yep, still shows short lead, cathode. I should be good. So that's ready to solder up. Now, resistors aren't too bad, but when you start getting into LEDs and transistors and other semiconductors, it's important that you don't put too much heat on them for too long. So, learn to solder and solder quickly. That one should be good. Let's just see that I got it down out to the right height. I might actually end up taking that, yeah, I'm going to take that LED down just a little bit. It's just sitting up a bit too high. Whoop. And what I got there is a bit of crossover on the solder. I need to get rid of that. So normally I have desoldering braid, or at least a solder sucker to clean up the solder, but I do not have any of that here, so I've got to be real careful. Okay, that should be about right. Pause that. Alright, the next part that I'm going to do, the next stage, is these little, I think they're called ceramic capacitors. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They're all marked. They've all got 2, 2, 3 on the casing, and it's pretty easy to correspond them to capacitor 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10. So they should be, I don't know if you can even see that, 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10. Anyway, so I can actually, should be able to correspond them pretty quickly to where they go on the board and get them fitted up. And then it just leaves me one more ceramic capacitor and 3 electrolytic capacitors that need to be fitted up, but I'll get those ones done first. Okay, make this quick. I've got the all the resistors fitted up. I've got all the ceramic capacitors fitted up, you know, soldered in. I have the LED, one LED, variable capacitor, variable resistor, potentiometer, and this here, I'm pretty sure this is the external earphone or earpiece socket. Now my next part that I'm going to do is get all these electrolytic capacitors fitted up. Now electrolytics are a little different than ceramic in that they are polarized, so you have to make sure you're getting the correct side. You have to make sure they're put in the correct way. So you'll see that stripe down the middle, that's the negative. It also happens to correspond with a shorter lead, and it took me a little bit of, I had to refer back to these diagrams just to make sure, but the negative lead, alright, on the capacitor is going to be going to this side on the board, so that actually makes it pretty easy. I've got 300 UF, I've got 2 whatever they are, and UF I think is microfarad, and so they're just going to go in like this, 3 like that, and 2 the other ones, and they should fit up pretty quickly. And then I just have to work out the transistors and now I'm going to call these matching transformers. On the board, the circuit diagram on the board appears to be a transformer of sorts. To be honest, I'm just not sure exactly what it does, but anyway, that'll be the next project. I have to make sure I get the right transformer in the right location. Okay, so let me recap a couple things, because I'm not sure where the camera ran out of batteries last time. So I got the electrolytic capacitors. See if I can find something to point with, which is those there. Now they are polarized in that they have a positive and negative side. On this board, the negative side is kind of marked in by a shaded in area, which that would be pretty obvious once you actually look at the board. But I actually had to do a little bit of I did have to do a little bit of research with these schematics and other diagrams here to work out which one had to go where. Next thing I did was the transistors, and I was using this sheet here to work out. So I had 3 different types of transistors, and they were marked on the transistor: 9018, 9014 and 9013, and they all correspond to locations on this board, such as VT6, VT7. They were all marked on the board, and so that wasn't too hard. Little diagrams on the board show you which way the transistor is meant to fit in, and pretty much the only thing, there's a few transistors I need to solder in. The last thing I need to do is these matching transformers. you might be able to see, I've got a red, a yellow, a white, and a green. So I've got 4 different matching transformers. Now I don't know if they've actually tuned those, I don't know. Anyway, they are meant to go in specific places on the board, and I had to go to Google and try to reference what red, white, green, and yellow were in Chinese. So if you go to Google and you check what the Chinese symbol for red is, let me see here, I've marked it on this. Red's this top one. Okay. So, yeah, I've got that turned around somehow. Anyway, this here, that symbol, not sure if you can even see that, but anyway, that symbol's red, and all the others are marked, such as white, green, or what's the other one? White, green, yellow. So it is actually marked on the board, and you just have to color code it. You just have to know, because it is marked in Chinese. So, you know, do some Google searching and work out what red is in Chinese, what green is in Chinese, and then find those symbols on the board, and that is where you're going to fit the matching transformer. And that's pretty much it. Cross my fingers. I mean, I've doubled and triple checked everything. If everything's working as it should, I should have a working radio. But let me get that fitted up and we'll see how I went. Okay, so I missed a few steps as far as video, taking video of it. I just want to talk you through what I did there. So, can you see that okay? Alright, so you've got an antenna and tuning coil, I guess, probably both of those, and that one ferret core antenna, I think that's what it's called. Very fine wires, and they're marked 1, 2, and 3, 4 on the circuit board, and that's where those fine wires from the antenna go. Now, to work out which one's which, I just used that diagram right there. So it just showed you, as far as there's a big coil and then there's a smaller coil. It just goes 1, 2, 3, 4, and I just use that to work out where they went. So that was one thing I skipped. So I bought 2 of these, and this one did not go right off the bat, and I don't think it was anything I did. I think it was just I wasn't able to read Chinese. So now the second one I built, it did work straight off the bat, so that's working now. I still have to get it all put together, but one of the things that got me in trouble, on the circuit board you'll find a lot of tracks that have like a break in them. They're marked, I think, A, B, C, D, E. Anyway, there's 4 or 5 of them on the circuit board, and you actually have to solder those up. So you have to fix the break in the track, and that's something they probably say it in the direction somewhere, but obviously I can't read Chinese. So if you're an English speaker and trying to fuddle through this project, just keep in mind that there is some, like right there, it says D, alright, and that's one of the places that you actually have to solder over, and all you do is tap a bit of solder on it and it closes up that break, and then you're good. So I think that's mostly what I missed. Now I just got to get it all put together into a working portable radio. And then I'm going to go through and resolder up the joints, because I didn't get those joints, the brakes in the track. I did not get them done in this first one. That's probably why it's not working. So I've got to pull some stuff off to do that. Okay. And yeah, that's the radio picking up on AM, local radio. Okay. Shut up. Okay, thought I'd better turn the volume down. YouTube will get me for a copyright infringement if the volume's up too high. So, all done, and it's working. Another little problem I noticed that I'm not even going to bother fixing, but when you fit, there's an LED you fit to the board. And I didn't mention, I don't think I mentioned it, but it actually mounts from the opposite side, so it's a little bit tricky. That's it there. And you got to get the right height. And this one here, I've actually got it sitting out too far, and it pushed the bottom of the dial. Whatever, it's all in Chinese anyway. But it pushed out. So when you do it, you're going to have to get the right height on the LED so that it fits in correctly. I think I mentioned, I did a couple of these. They're a cheap kit, and I want to mess around with some crystal radios, and I thought I would do a couple of these just to get or polish up some very rusty skills. So, and yeah, it's definitely good for that. Good to build something, actually have it work. It's been many years since I built a electronics kit, that's for sure. These Ryobi soldering irons. Still can't fit back in here. These Ryobi quarter soldering irons. Very handy tool. I like that. Much better than having heats up very quickly. I mean seconds, and I don't have to have a power cord running around here, although it's still got a cord on it, but still just press that, it starts blinking, so you can take this just about anywhere, do some small soldering jobs. So good tool to have for the homestead. So it's just blinking now. When that finishes blinking, that's ready to go. I might have to edit this out, taking a little bit longer. There we go. So that went from cold to heated up in just a few seconds.